is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And as always, we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have a lot of volleyball to discuss, such as Kentucky winning the Battle of the Bluegrass against Louisville. The Wildcats finally broke through. Now, can they carry that momentum all the way to SEC play? Also, how about Marquette getting a little revenge on its previous head coach, who's down in Florida, as they took down the Gators? Are the Golden Eagles for real when it comes to Big East Conference play? Also, let's talk about Cal Poly repping the Big West as they took down Utah last weekend. Can the Mustangs finally break through in the Big West after Hawaii has had a massive grip on it? Also, how about the Marymount Sailors winning Durango? The Durango Fall Classic falls to the Sailors. Now can Marymount continue that success into league play? So hand me a volleyball. That's next. I'm about to get some volleyball action here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio. Your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Monday, wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way into episode 317 of Set Point. And without any further delay, let's begin. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without IE Sports Radio providing the platform to go live on YouTube, Twitch, and X. Please do follow IE Sports Radio on several different social media platforms such as X, TikTok, Instagram. We would greatly appreciate it. Also, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. We would greatly appreciate it if you were to subscribe. We're trying to reach 500 subscribers, and with your help, we could definitely make it happen. So thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. And for the last 11 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports around the country. Once again, thank you to everyone for supporting IE Sports Radio, who is your direct feed for all that sports. A huge shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, and Vital Apparel. So without any further delay, let's get on in to what our sponsors are all about. I will see you in a little bit.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out all of our amazing sponsors and definitely check out IE Sports Radio as a whole on social media. The way you can follow Setpoint on social media is on X and TikTok at set_point.ie. I need to get back into the TikTok game. And you can also follow me personally as well at Teran Rodriguez 1. You could also follow Setpoint on Instagram as well at set_point.iesr. I actually did just surpass 1,000 followers, which I honestly think, I guess I should start off by saying, if you follow me on Instagram, I really appreciate it. So thank you to everyone that helped me reach 1,000 followers on Instagram. It really means a lot. And I'll probably have something special next week. But for now, that's how you can follow me on social media. I would greatly appreciate more followers and whatnot, just to help grow me and whatnot. So without any further delay, let us get on into the volleyball action. So let's actually talk some NCAA women's volleyball. So a lot happened last week. It was rivalry week. It was the last week before conference play began. So let's get on into some of the headline matches from last week. So we obviously have to start off with the big one. Nebraska, number 1 Nebraska playing at number 18 Creighton. This matchup never ceases to amaze. And before I continue, I got to say hello to my good friend, Brian Francione, my teammate of IE Sports Radio. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you. But let's get back on into number 1 Nebraska at number 18 Creighton. Very amazing match right here. I actually didn't watch it live. I had to watch the replay of it. But, man, it was a barn burner, especially that fourth set. It looked as if Nebraska was going to end it in 4, but Creighton came all the way back. But unfortunately, they just ran out of gas in set 5. And that's kind of what really good teams do, as Harper Murray led the way for Nebraska with 17 kills. Virginia Adriano had 13 kills. Taylor Landfair had 12 kills. Andy Jackson had 11 kills. And Bergen Riley had a double-double, 19 digs to lead the team in that department, and as well as 43 assists. And I guess I should mention Nebraska's hitting percentage. They hit 250, which is pretty good. I mean, Creighton hit 173, as they were led by Ava Martin, who had 16 kills. They also got 11 kills from Kiara Reinhardt. So overall, this is what a Nebraska-Creighton match should be. Just high level and filled. And I guess it's worth noting that Nebraska-Creighton had an attendance of 17,675, which is incredible. So congratulations to the CHI Health Center for having that. And this was actually televised on FS1, and it surpassed 388 viewers. And keep in mind, that was a 5-set match. I'm a little surprised it didn't get a little bit more views, just because, well, it's a Nebraska match and it's a hot, big-time match. I mean, yeah, Creighton is a little bit down. They're having like roster, I wouldn't say roster issues. I'm just gonna saying they have to like shuffle their lineup every now and then. But it just goes to show that Nebraska is good. I just feel that they're not perfect just yet, and obviously they're still trying to figure out the libero position. They're obviously going back and forth with their 2 liberos, but I'll give a lot of credit to Creighton. They were insane, and it just goes to show that their record was not indicative of who they were. They obviously had a bunch of 5-set matches, and I was hoping for Creighton's sake that those 5-set matches against at least UC Santa Barbara would have helped them, as well as I think they had another 5-set match against Kansas. But overall, a good fight from Creighton. This is obviously going to help them out. If you all remember my interview with Brian Rosen. Yeah, Brian Rosen. He and I talked with one another, and he was not ducking anybody. The dude wants to schedule the stiffest and toughest competition. Like, for example, he scheduled Nebraska, Creighton, USC, Kansas, the list goes on and on. Like, he wasn't in Penn State. We obviously got to remember Penn State. So overall, it was a fun match, and Creighton is still Creighton. They deserve to be ranked, and until said otherwise, I think they're going to win the Big East. That was pretty much the only notable result from Tuesday. There were other ranked matches, but none were as good as Nebraska Creighton. So jumping to Wednesday, we had pretty much rivalry central. We had number 7 Wisconsin taking down unranked Marquette. Again, not surprising. This is obviously Wisconsin we're talking about, and Marquette is good, but they're not in the level of Wisconsin. Then we had this little fun matchup. Number 5 Pitt taking down number 13 Penn State at Rec Hall in 4 sets. This was actually televised on Big Ten Network, if I recall correctly. But I'm just going to say this. Pitt is still it. And they seem to have the number for Penn State. They've had the number for Penn State the past 3 seasons, which I think is great for them. I just think Penn State is still trying to do everything that it can without Izzy Stark, because if you remember, she announced on social media that she was going to be stepping away from the sport of volleyball for the time being, for at least this year, to help to basically focus on her mental health and whatnot. I don't know the full instincts, but someone else I do know kind of does. I think it's from the Heart Network. That's his X account, but I digress. Moving on, Penn State. Pitt was led by Olivia Babcock, who had 16 kills. Dagmar Mortis had 13 kills. Ryla Jones, 9 kills. Blair Bayless, 7 kills. Pitt was narrowly held under 300 as they hit 299, but they did hold Penn State to 169 as Kennedy Martin led the way with 16 kills, while Emmy Selman added 11 kills. And this is kind of what I mean by in terms of they're still trying to get used to not having Izzy Stark, because they have to go with Addie Lyon at the setter position. So my takeaway for Pitt is this. I think everyone kind of over-exaggerated Pitt in terms of them losing the first 2 matches. I mean, their first 2 losses were against Nebraska and Florida, who I think is actually better than what most people expect. But I think Pitt is starting to kind of find its bearings. Now, will they be the same Pitt for ACC play? I'm not sure, but I'm sure they'll still probably be ready for the likes of Louisville, Stanford, SMU, and whatnot. Brian puts in the chat room, that's really good numbers on FS1. I hope it helps the sport grow. Oh, it will. I guarantee it. We're seeing more nationally televised women's volleyball matches. So thank you, Brian, for that little comment. Also on Wednesday, we had another rivalry matchup. We had number 9 TCU taking on number 2 Texas. Long story short, Texas took TCU to the shed as they wound up sweeping them. They hit 415 as a team. Tori Stafford led the way with 15 kills. Abby Vanderwall had 11 kills. Kari Spears had 10 kills. TCU was led by Evan Hendricks, who had 10 kills, as TCU hit 163, and they failed to even surpass 20 points in any of the sets. So Texas is just on a roll. They are just on a tear, and it's just crazy if you ask me. And let me just pop it right back to here. All right. So, yeah, that was just – you didn't miss much when it came to TCU, Texas. I was very surprised that was a convincing sweep by Texas. And then we had this little matchup that was on ESPNU. Number 6 Kentucky taking down number 3 Louisville in the Battle of the Bluegrass in 5. That was an amazing match and a great win for Kentucky, especially in the 4th and 5th set. They held Louisville to a combined 19 points, 12 in set 4, 7 in set 5. It just felt like this was Kentucky's match to win, as Brooklyn DeLay led the way with 24 kills. Eva Hudson had 17 kills. Brooke Boltema had 11 kills. Lizzie Carr, 10 kills. For Louisville, they were led by Peyton Peterson, who had 14 kills. Hannah Sherman, she had 9 kills. Cara Cressy and Chloe Chicoine, 8 kills each. So my overall takeaway from, and I guess I should mention, Louisville hit under 100 while Kentucky hit 209. The blocking was there for Kentucky as they had 17 blocks, while Louisville, the blocking was there for them as they had 18 and a half blocks. So it was a block party for both teams. But my overall takeaway for this, for Kentucky, I just got to say, that's probably one of their better wins that they've had. Probably one of the reasons why I gave them Team of the Week, because they had actually lost 4 straight to Louisville. And again, this is a rivalry match. So I imagine, and this was on the road, mind you. So I think for Kentucky, this was an outstanding win for them. I think that they definitely have a lot of upside. I think that they can definitely carry this momentum into SEC play. And this was a good showing following their loss to Pitt. I think the Pitt loss, I don't think, was indicative of how good Kentucky really was. I think that was more so of how good Pitt really was as a team. But I think this win over Louisville shows that Kentucky definitely has it. So elsewhere on Thursday, we had some other matchups. We didn't really have too many. We didn't have any upsets, just a bunch of ranked teams taking down unranked teams fairly convincingly outside of USC, which needed 4 to beat LSU. But LSU is a solid team. Jumping to Friday, we had number 2 Texas taking down number 21 Baylor in straight sets in the battle of 2 former rivals from the Big 12. Just like this was almost as similar as the TCU matchup, where Texas held Baylor to under 20 points, and man, Texas is definitely the real deal. All their wins are ranked wins, which is incredible. As Kari Spears led the way with 18 kills, Tori Stafford had 10 kills. Kari Spears is starting to become a household name, and she is. And for those that don't know, she is the daughter of Marcus Spears, former NFL player who's now on ESPN talking NFL and whatnot. Texas as a whole, they hit 435 while holding Baylor to 134, as Baylor was led by Manuela Bibinde, who had 7 kills. But overall, I think this just goes to show that Texas is really that talented. They're as good as advertised. And like I said, I think it's a little early to say this, but I'm thinking the national championship could be Texas-Nebraska. That's no disrespect to the other teams, but I think Texas is playing some darn good volleyball. Nebraska is playing some darn good volleyball. What we're going to really see is how good they'll play in conference play. Will they be able to keep up their great and stellar play? That will remain to be seen. And then some other notable results. Penn State needed 5 to take down Princeton. Yes, this was not an EIVA matchup, but man, Penn State needed 5 to take down Princeton. I don't want to jump to conclusions, but I feel Penn State has some more more problems than a math book. But Penn State, even though they're number 13, they survived against Princeton at home, mind you, as Kennedy Martin led the way with 29 kills and 9 digs. Jordan Hopp had 13 kills. Maggie Mendelson had 8 kills. So, and then I guess it's worth noting for Princeton, they were led by Valerie Nudakor, who had 14 kills. Erin McNair had 13 kills. Princeton hit 204, while Penn State hit 326. That's kind of expected if you're Penn State. And Penn State had 9 blocks compared to Princeton's 3. So overall, I don't think Penn State should need 5 to beat Princeton, but it just goes to show that the Ivy League is pretty darn dangerous, if you ask me. So kudos to Princeton for pushing Penn State to 5, but Penn State's got to figure it out because now they are in Big Ten conference play. And then we had this little upset right here. Marquette taking down number 15 Florida in the battle of Brian Tice. You got to remember, Brian Tice was the former Marquette coach before leaving for Florida. So it's good to see Marquette kind of getting a little bit of payback, as the sweep was actually, it was close, as Marquette won the match 25-23 all across the board. But Marquette was led by Natalie Ring, who had 14 kills. Elena Radef had 10 kills. Hattie Bray had 6 kills. And Emma Parks had 8 kills. Marquette hit 205 while holding Florida to 222. The blocking was there for Florida, so don't be surprised why Marquette hit so low. Florida had a total of 14 blocks as a team, while Marquette only had 7 blocks as a team. For Florida, they were led by Jordan Bird, who had 13 kills. Anaya Madkin had 10 kills, and then Jayla August had 9 kills, and Alec Roth had 8 kills. So my takeaway for this matchup is this: Marquette is actually pretty darn good, and I think they're just not. What happens is that they're just overshadowed by Creighton in terms of like the Big East Conference love. But I think for Marquette, they're starting to really figure it out. I think that they kind of had a little bit of a rough start to the season. I mean, actually, it wasn't too rough of a start. I mean, they did have a bunch of 5-setters in Hawaii, but I think for Marquette, they're really starting to figure it out. And I expect them to give Creighton all it could handle when it comes to Big East Conference play. For Florida, I just think that this was kind of one of those nights where they did really well in terms of statistics, but they wound up just laying an egg when it truly mattered in the red zone. So I think for the Gators, it's still got a lot to learn, still under like new management under Ryan Tice, but I think they'll be fine going into SEC play. I can't imagine Florida won't make the NCAA tournament. I just think that they're still a good team, even though they just had this little blip. And then we had this little upset also on Friday. We had Cal Poly, the Mustangs, taking down number 20 Utah in straight sets. Cal Poly was very impressive. I know Cal Poly is really good in terms of playing at home, playing at Mott Athletic Center in San Luis Obispo, but man, they really made Utah look, I wouldn't say foolish, but they made them look they made them look silly, if you ask me, as Utah was held to under a 100 hitting percentage. They hit only 46, while Cal Poly hit a blistering 330. It felt like the Cal Poly of like the 2019 team or whatnot, as Cal Poly was led by Emma Frederick, who had 11 kills. Kendall Bashir and Chloe Lelouch both had 8 kills. Annabelle Falcon had 7 kills. While for Utah, they were led by Cameron Giba. I'm trying to pronounce this right. Gibadillo. Cameron Gibadillo, who had 13 kills and 9 digs. But again, this isn't really what I expected from this. Like, this is surprisingly eye-popping and not for the better if you're Utah. Like, I know Cal Poly is a good team. They're probably one of the favorites to win the Big West Conference, them in Hawaii. But I think that this is kind of this needs to be the wake-up call for Utah. Again, Cal Poly is a good team at Mott Athletic Center. But I will say, I don't think this is what Utah truly is all about. Like, this is not Utah volleyball. And then there weren't anything. Oh, wait a minute. We had one more upset, and that was Georgia taking down number 23 Georgia Tech in 5 in the Battle of the Peach State. So this was a pretty darn good win for Georgia, and people always seem to overlook Georgia just because they're not as flashy as they were back in the day and whatnot. But I think Georgia is a sneaky good SEC team. They're not on the level of like Kentucky, Texas, and Florida, but I think that they're still up there in terms of like talent. They had 4 different players with 10 or more kills, and they had, and as Biana Muoneke had 15 kills. If I mispronounce any of these names, I apologize. MK Patton had 12 kills. Estelle Haugen had 10 kills. Adriana Rhoda had 10 kills, as Georgia hit nearly 300, which I thought was incredible if you ask me. And then for Georgia Tech, even though they outdug Georgia, they hit only 157, as they were led by Lamine Mambu, who had 17 kills. Anika Groom had 15 kills, and Larissa Mendez had 12 kills. This is kind of, and I guess I should also mention that Georgia Tech also got 9 kills from Deandra Pierce. But this is kind of what I mean by Georgia Tech doesn't have the horses that it did back in the old days. They just don't have that big-time hitter like they did way back when. So I think for Georgia Tech, they're going to need to like clean things up before ACC play, because the ACC is really good. And it's not just the teams that are like ranked at the top 10, like Louisville, Pitt, and Stanford. You've got other good teams like Miami, and you've got UNC, North Carolina. So, and some other sneaky good teams like SMU, I forgot about them. They're ranked pretty fairly high as well. And then Florida State, I want to see what Florida State can do, and so on and so forth. So if Georgia Tech wants to have success in the ACC, they're going to really need to clean it up, because the ACC is going to be a gauntlet. But a great win for Georgia. That's a great confidence booster heading into SEC play. So you have that right. So there's that right there. And and speaking of upsets regarding the ACC, we had this little upset: Kansas State upending number 25 North Carolina in 5. Fun fact about Kansas State: they're one of 2 teams that did not have one player come in from the transfer portal or go out into the transfer portal. I think that's pretty incredible if you ask me. But Kansas State wound up beating North Carolina in 5. Kansas State was led by Shaylee Myers, who had 27 kills. She actually had not as much as the whole team. I was about to say she had half of what the entire team had, but she did not. Anaya Clinton had 13 kills. Brenna Schmidt had 8 kills as Kansas State hit 208 as a team. North Carolina hit 211, and the blocking was there. They had 12 blocks compared to Kansas State's 10, as North Carolina was led by Safi Hampton, who had 15 kills. Haley Pierce had 13 kills. Chelsea Thorpe had 9 kills, and Lainey Smith had 8 kills. So my takeaway for Kansas State is this: if I'm the Big 12, I do not underestimate Kansas State. I think Kansas State is going to be pretty darn good, if you ask me. So overall, I think that this is a great win for Kansas State. This definitely puts them on the map. For North Carolina, they're so lucky that this is their second unranked loss. They lost last week to South Carolina. They are so lucky they took down, I think it was Florida. It was either Florida or Texas A&M, but UNC ought to be thanking their lucky stars. They are not out of the top 25. Yeah, spoiler alert, UNC is still in the top 25. So there you have it. Moving on to Saturday, looks like we didn't have too many notable results in terms of like upsets, sadly. There was one result that was worth mentioning, and that was UCLA sweeping Hawaii at Stanford. So this was a pretty darn good win for the Bruins, and this was kind of the thing that was my biggest concern for Hawaii. Could they handle the likes of Stanford? Because Stanford swept Hawaii on Friday. Saturday, we saw UCLA sweep Hawaii, and you're about to see on Sunday that Hawaii was kind of unsuccessful in its road trip against Stanford, in its road trip at Stanford. So, but that was kind of a good win, and we also got to see the first start of PK Kong, which I think is pretty darn good if you ask me. So that is something that Alfie Ref's team definitely needed. They definitely needed PK Kong, as she was actually playing right side instead of the middle, which is kind of interesting. But I guess with all the talent that UCLA has in the middle, it's kind of tough to have 3 middles in the same 6 rotations. So I guess Ref decided to put PK Kong at the right side. So there you have it. And then jumping over to Sunday, we had number 4 Stanford taking down UCLA in 4. This was a good little matchup for the Cardinal. And this is a nice little former Pac-12 matchup. So unfortunately for the Bruins, they wound up losing. But it was still a pretty darn good result for the Bruins. Stanford is just too good. Even though they're young, they just are really darn good, if you ask me. And then we had this little fun matchup that was on Big Ten Network. It was number 7 Wisconsin taking down number 15 Florida in 4. If you saw the 4th set, I will just say you probably had a bunch of years taken off of you, because that 4th set was 36-34, which, man, that was excruciating. I thought that was going to be that was pretty much going to be a long time matchup. I thought that was going to be the set that never wanted to end, but Wisconsin was able to end it, and they were able to pick up the win. So no 5th set, even though Wisconsin did drop the 1st set. So it was basically a lady sweep or gentleman sweep. Either way, Wisconsin was led by Mimi Collier, who had 27 kills. She was named the AVCA Player of the Week last week. Una Vahajic also had 10 kills to go along with 12 digs. Grace Egan had 11 kills. For Florida, they were led by Anaya Madkin, who had 18 kills, while Alec Roth had 13 kills, Jayla August had 11 kills, and Jordan Bird added 10 kills. So overall, this was kind of one of those grinded out matches for Wisconsin. I had a feeling they were going to need to throw the kitchen sink at Florida and then some. This always happens when Wisconsin plays Florida. It's always a barn burner no matter what happens. So good win for the Badgers. Tough one for Florida, but I just feel that if Jordan Bird has an off night, she needs to have everyone else step up, and they did. So that was good on Florida's part. But Jordan Bird having a not so off match is not ideal for the Gators. And we also had this little ranked on ranked matchup. It was a mini upset, hence the word mini, as number 18 Creighton swept number 17 Kansas. Sets 1 and 2, or 1 and 3 were close, 26-24 and 25-22. Set 2 was not all that close. It was 25-18. As the Jays were led by Ava Martin, who had 18 kills. Jaya Johnson had 9 kills. As a team, Creighton hit 218 while posting 52 digs and 9 blocks. They held Kansas to 7.5 blocks and 49 digs, and they held Kansas to a 107 hitting percentage, as Jovana Zelenovic had 9 kills. Reese Patasic had 7 kills. If I'm mispronouncing these names, I apologize. But this was a pretty darn good win for Creighton. Not a bad win by any means. So great win for Creighton. For Kansas, again, I'll give them this. At least they didn't need 5. But, man, that is tough right there. But this is kind of one of those pick-em matchups. This is one of those 50-50 matchups. I just think that Creighton, with the tough schedule that they've played, I'm glad they got a result like this. So good win for Creighton. And that is pretty much that right there. I guess I should make note that Texas State took down Hawaii in 4. Now, we're all probably wondering what is going on with Hawaii. Hawaii is just not – they're going through a little bit of a down phase. Remember, they don't have Taylor Hawkins. And in the UCLA match, one of their other players – Stella Idemi or Idemi, she actually got hurt. So unfortunately, she was out. She actually had a knee injury, and unfortunately, she is out. She was out indefinitely, and hopefully, it's not a season-ending knee injury. So, yeah, Hawaii's kind of going through it. But if I'm Hawaii fans, I don't hit the panic button. I think Hawaii will be just fine when it comes to Big West Conference play. You all don't need to worry about a thing. So, if I'm a Hawaii fan, I'm not panicking just yet. I mean, Hawaii doesn't really peak until Big West Conference play anyway, and they don't start peaking until they don't start truly peaking until the Big West Conference tournament, where they just really surprise everybody, and they just make us think that they are in danger, but in reality, they are not. So let's not hit the panic button on Hawaii just yet. So that is that right there when it comes to the NCAA Women's Volleyball Week 4 recap. So now let's go on into the AVCA Terraflex Division 1 Women's Volleyball poll. Oh, that's the wrong one. So Nebraska is still number 1. While Texas, they received one more first place vote, which is actually great for them. Kentucky and Stanford are both tied for number 3. Pitt is number 5. Louisville's number 6. Wisconsin's number 7. Arizona State's number 8, TCU's number 9, Purdue's number 10, SMU 11, Minnesota 12, Texas A&M 13, BYU 14, Penn State 15, Creighton 16, USC 17, Kansas 18, Florida 19, Baylor 20, Missouri number 21, Tennessee 22, Utah 23, Miami, a newcomer in the poll, 24, and North Carolina is 25. And the one that dropped out was Georgia Tech. So we had one ACC team leave for another ACC team. So we still have six Power 4 teams from different conferences in the top 25. So 6 ACC teams, 6 Big 12 teams, 6 Big 10 teams, and 6 ACC teams. So yeah. 6 ACC, 6 SEC, 6 Big 10, and 6 Big 12. There we go. And then the one non-Power 4 conference team is Creighton, who I think we could consider them as a Power 5 in the Big East. But I digress. All right, but that is that right there. So now this week is conference play. So let's jump on into actually, before we get on into some NCAA Women's Volleyball Week 5, I actually do want to talk a little NCAA Women's Volleyball Division 3 action. So Wisconsin Eau Claire took down number 1 Wisconsin Whitewater in 5. So that was incredible right there. So the one week where Wisconsin Whitewater was ranked number 1 after Juniata got knocked off, they wind up losing in 5 to Wisconsin Eau Claire. Oh, man, that's got to suck for Whitewater. And then Juniata was actually not ranked number 1 for the first time since November 8th, 2022. So tough times for Juniata for the time being, but that won't define them as a team. They'll probably get back to number 1 sooner rather than later. Now let's look on into NCAA Women's Volleyball Week 5. So this week is conference week. This week begins conference week, except we actually did have one little match. That was a non-conference match. It was Louisville taking down Western Kentucky in 3. Come on. Even though Western Kentucky is pretty darn good, because Travis Hudson is a very good coach, I just think that Louisville is just – they're Louisville. Nothing more needs to be said. But, yeah, we finally get to dig into the meat and potatoes of conference play. So nothing notable on Tuesday. Wednesday's a big day. We've got number 5 Pitt at number 10 SMU. That's going to be a fun one. That's going to be really fun. This is going to – or actually, no, SMU's not number 10. Wait a minute. They're not number 10. SMU is number 11. So it's SMU Pitt. So still going to be a fun little matchup. You got Missouri, Texas A&M. That's going to be a fun one. Georgia, Tennessee. That's going to be really fun. It's going to really answer the question of if Georgia is actually for real. And then you also have, I was going to say Baylor, Texas Tech, but I think Baylor should win that one fairly easy. And then this one I think can be a trap game. South Carolina, Kentucky. Even though Kentucky is playing some darn good volleyball, South Carolina is always that team that loves to upset the better teams in the SEC. So do keep an eye on that. Then skipping over to Thursday, the 25th, we don't have anything. We don't have anything notable. Maybe Colorado, BYU, but Colorado did suffer its first loss against Colorado State last week, so you had that right there. And then jumping to Friday, we have number 2 Texas and Missouri. That's going to be another fun one. Georgia, Kentucky, that's another great one right there. I was about to say Wisconsin, Rutgers, but no. Number 8, Arizona State, and number 17, Kansas. That's going to be another fun one. Number 13, Penn State hosting number 19, USC, or number 18, USC. I want to see what USC is all about. Can they win on the road outside of Southern California or California in general? Because USC is pretty darn good in the state of California, but how are they outside of California? And then Mississippi State, Florida can be a sneaky good matchup just because Mississippi State, if I recall correctly, I think they're still undefeated. I'm not 100% sure, but I think their record is still pretty darn good. Then you've got Miami, Georgia Tech. Winner is ranked. Loser is not ranked. And then South Carolina, Tennessee. That has trap game written all over it for the Lady Vols. I would be careful when facing the Gamecocks. And that is pretty much that for Friday. Oh, also Friday, I got to mention this just because it's in my neck of the woods. Long Beach State playing at UC Irvine, the black and blue rivalry. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to miss it just because I have something important that Friday. So sadly, I won't be able to attend that matchup, but I'm sure it'll be a fun one if you attend. If you're in the Southern California area, go to it. Anyway, so Saturday we have TCU and Baylor, the battle of 2 ranked teams. I want to see what TCU is really all about in the Big 12. Can they really perform well in the Big 12? We'll have to wait and see. Utah, Colorado can be kind of sneaky good. I'm certain Utah should be able to bounce back after last week, But this is a rivalry matchup. So if I were Utah, I'd be careful. But then again, Utah does play well on its home floor, but we shall see. And then jumping over to Sunday, we have SMU Pitt round 2. This time it's going to be Pitt hosting. So Wednesday will be SMU hosting Pitt, but then Sunday will be Pitt hosting SMU. I want to say that is going to be nationally televised, but I'm not certain. Then you have UCLA at Penn State. Again, I want to see what UCLA can do in terms of Big Ten conference play. This is really going to test the Lady Bruins. Then you got Illinois at number 10, Purdue. I like Chris Tomas as a head coach, but I want to see what Illinois can do as a team in Big Ten conference play. I think Illinois is sneaky good, but Purdue is making me eat crow. They're making me eat my words because I said I wasn't high on Purdue. They're turning me into a liar. So if Illinois can kind of prove past Teran correctly, that'd be awesome. Then number 8, Arizona State at Kansas State. That can kind of be a good matchup. I just feel that Arizona State has a lot of firepower. So Kansas State is going to need to play its best volleyball and then some. And then that's it. Well, actually, no. Saturday, I forgot to mention. There's another sneaky good matchup. UC Davis at Hawaii. I know what y'all are going to say. I'm too Big West centric, but that is just who I am. I am a Big West supporter. I will back the Big West up, and nobody can tell me otherwise. Anyway, so yeah, UC Davis, Hawaii, that's a rematch of last year's Big West Conference Tournament semifinal where Hawaii edged out the win over UC Davis. I think UC Davis was up like 7-3 or 8-3 in the 5th set of that semifinal match. And then Hawaii just turned the tide and wound up winning the 5th set. I think it was like 15-13. So it was a semifinal to remember. But that should be a pretty fun matchup. I want to see if Davis can really perform well. I mean, they've played a challenging schedule, but so has Hawaii. But we shall see what the Rainbow Wahine can do. And yeah, you also are probably looking at this little graphic. And Minnesota did suffer another season-ending injury to one of its players as Callista Minity is out for the year as well. So, this is just insane if you're Minnesota. They've already got 3 starters for that matter, that are out for the season. So I really want to see what Minnesota can do. I mean, they should be able to handle the first week fine, but against teams like Nebraska, Wisconsin, maybe Penn State, maybe USC, so on and so forth, maybe UCLA if they can finally get it together, I'm going to be interested to see what Minnesota can do just because they're missing 3 of their best players, their starters, and I don't know what they'll do in terms of the bigger and better Big Ten conference teams, but we shall see. But that'll do it for this little bit of a that'll do it for this week 5 preview of NCAA women's volleyball. Let's take ourselves a quick little commercial break. When we come back, we've got some FIVB volleyball regarding the U.S. women's national team, the U.S. men's national team in terms of volleyball. We've got a little high school volleyball to discuss and much more. So keep it locked here. You were listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Dentarius Law.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That give you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the '08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
You wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your five-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows. And like my boy Davidson Crooks would say, hit that like button. Hit that like button, subscribe, tell everyone all about IE Sports Radio. But welcome back to the second half of IE Sports Radio, IE Sports Radio's set point. Now let's get on back into the volleyball action. So let's talk a little bit of some U.S. women's national team action. So they partook in the NORCECA Final Six, as there were 6 teams that were involved. No, there were actually 8 teams. Obviously, there were 6 teams because it was called the Final Six. So this took place last Monday, where the U.S. took down Canada in straight sets, 25-13, 25-11, and 25-19. Last Tuesday, the U.S. outlasted Cuba in a 5-set barn burner, 25-20, 16-25, 25-18, 22-25, and 15-10. The U.S. took down the Dominican Republic in 4 sets, 25-12, 21-25, 25-20, and 25-13. This was last Wednesday. Last Thursday, the U.S. took down Mexico in 4, 25-15, 25-15, 20-25, and 25-20. The U.S. last Friday swept Puerto Rico 25-22, 25-21, and 25-13. They got a bye all the way to the semifinals, where they took down the Dominican Republic in 4 sets, 25-20, 16-25, 25-18, and 25-22. Then in the gold medal match on yesterday, they swept Mexico 25-19, 25-17, and 25-17. Mexico was the host team in all of this whole thing, as this was actually held in Guadalajara, Mexico. But yeah, a great win for the U.S. as they finally had some success. I get it. It wasn't all that much. There was only 5 teams that they faced, but still pretty good to get gold. And they got Eric Sullivan his first medal in terms of playing in an event. So Pretty good, if you ask me. Also, shout out to former Set Point guest Brad Rostrader. He was on the coaching staff of the U.S. women's national team. So some of the players that were on the U.S. women's national team, we didn't really have like Kathleen Plummer or Dana Redke or whatnot. We had players like Cammie Miner, formerly of Stanford, Elena Ogilvie, also formerly of Stanford, Mary Schroll, formerly of Arizona State, Corey Lewis, formerly of Florida State, Kendall Kipp, formerly of Stanford, Sammy Francis, formerly of Stanford as well, Emily Thader, formerly of Missouri, Claire Chaussee, formerly of Louisville, Nora Sis, formerly of Creighton, Jaylee Winters, also formerly of Creighton, Maddie Cubic Banks, formerly of Nebraska, Reagan Cooper, formerly of Kansas/Washington State, Ella Powell, formerly of Washington, and Skylar Fields, formerly of USC/Texas. So, yeah, it was a great win for the U.S. And, yeah, going undefeated. And this was their second gold medal in terms of this whole little event. They have 2 silvers and they have a bronze. So they've medaled in the last 5 of these events. So that's pretty darn impressive if you ask me. Reagan Cooper was named the MVP of the tournament. Sammy Francis was the second best blocker of the tournament. Nora Sis was the best receiver. And Ella Powell was named the best setter. So bravo to the U.S. women's national team. And congratulations to Eric Sullivan on finally getting that gold medal in terms of like winning in sort of any sort of event. I get it. Everyone has been critical of Eric Sullivan, but let's cut him a break and let's let him enjoy this and whatnot. So congratulations to the U.S. women's national team, even though this wasn't the Olympic team, but I digress. Anyway, moving on, now moving on to a little bit of some men's volleyball action. So we had the FIVB World Championship. Last time we talked about this, we left off on last Monday's matchups where we talked about France and Korea. And we didn't get a chance. It was pretty much that. And pretty much at the 15th. So we had Bulgaria taking down Slovenia in 5. You had Netherlands taking down Romania in straight sets. The U.S. took down Portugal in straight sets. Poland. Wait a minute. Hold on. Actually, no, that's right. I thought I was like too far down. Anyway, we had USA taking down Portugal, Poland taking down Qatar. This is where we left off. Brazil and Czechia. Brazil swept Czechia. Argentina took down Korea in 4. Iran took down Tunisia in 4. Ukraine swept Algeria. And then we had on last Tuesday, Philippines took down Egypt in 4. Finland took down France in 5. That was a big win for Finland. SpongeBob reference. Anyway, Serbia took down China in straight sets. Belgium took down Italy in 5. That was a huge upset, in my opinion. That was a pretty darn good win for Belgium. You had Portugal taking down Colombia in 5. Qatar taking down Romania in 4. Bulgaria taking down Chile in straight sets. And then Turkey taking down Canada in straight sets. So pretty darn good if you ask me. And then last Wednesday, we had the U.S. taking down Cuba in 4. Good win for the U.S. That's not an easy team to beat. Poland took down Netherlands in 4. Slovenia took down Germany in 4. Japan swept Libya. Serbia swept Brazil. That was another good win right there because I did not expect Brazil to lose that one. Finland took down Korea in 4. Tunisia took down Egypt in straight sets. And then Belgium took down Algeria in straight sets as well. And then last Thursday, we had Iran taking down Philippines in 5. Argentina took down France in 5 again. And we had Czechia taking down China in straight sets. And then Italy swept Ukraine. So now we get on into the round of 16 matchups. So we had Turkey taking on Netherlands. After dropping the first set, Turkey took down the Netherlands in 4. Nice. This has been quite the turnaround for Turkey. I think Turkey is a pretty darn good team, if you ask me. And they are probably the surprise team of this whole FIVB World Championship. Then you had Poland taking down Canada in 4. This isn't surprising. I mean, Poland has just been on a tear. All they just do is win when it comes to volleyball in terms of the men's side. And then yesterday we had Italy sweeping Argentina. Not too surprising right there. Even if Argentina had Augustin Loser. I think Italy just has too much firepower. And then Belgium took down Finland in straight sets. Not too surprising. Bulgaria swept Portugal today. So today's matchups were Bulgaria-Portugal, where Bulgaria swept Portugal. And then the U.S. took down Slovenia in 4. That means we're going to get the United States versus Bulgaria. And, oh, man, this one's going to be a barn burner because if I recall correctly, I think Moni Nikolov is still playing for the national team. And then also Alex Nikolov has just been on a tear. And those two together are just incredible. And then we have tomorrow still another round of 16 match. We've got Tunisia versus Czechia and then Iran taking on Serbia. And then the quarterfinals start on Wednesday with Italy taking on Belgium and Poland taking on Turkey. All right, let's try to make some predictions here. So Italy, Belgium, long story short, I think Italy is going to win this one. I mean, Belgium's had a great run, but this is Italy we're talking about. And they made the VNL championship. Unfortunately, they fell short to Poland, but this is Italy. This is Italy we're talking about. I don't see them slowing down for Belgium. So give me Italy in this quarterfinal matchup. And then Poland, Turkey. Look, Turkey has had such a fantastic run, but Poland is just such a buzzsaw. They are just the definition of a buzzsaw. And until anyone's going to slow down Poland, I got to go with Poland to beat Turkey. I very much apologize to TMZ Volleyball on X, who follows me, but I just think Turkey is going to kind of run into a buzzsaw against Poland. But they had a fantastic run. If I'm wrong, I will be the first to congratulate Turkey, and I will be the first to basically say Turkey is 100% the real deal in this FIVB World Championship. So not all the quarterfinals are finalized, as we still have one more. We still have where is it? I clicked go back. Stupid website. Anyway, we still have another round of 16 matchup. Yeah, we still have Tunisia and Czechia and Serbia, Iran to finalize for the quarterfinals. Then we have USA, Bulgaria in the quarterfinals. Oh man, this one is going to be the match of all matches. I don't know what to expect with this USA team. I mean, this USA team is young, but they're playing really good. And some of them are pretty much fresh out of college. But you've got this Bulgaria team, obviously, with Simon Nikolov or Moni Nikolov. And then you've also got Alex Nikolov and many others when it comes to Bulgaria. Man, I'm going to say Bulgaria wins this one. Look, I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but I think the U.S. is just a little too young for this matchup. I'll be the first to say I was wrong on next week's show if the U.S. does actually pull off the win. But I think this one's going to be a close one. I think this is a 50-50 matchup, but I just think Bulgaria is going to pull this one out in a 5-set barn burner. And I just think that Bulgaria is probably going to serve really tough, and that's probably going to be the difference maker. So, again, it's just a learning process for this young U.S. national team. They don't have I wouldn't say they're not as good as the Olympic team from last summer, but I just think that they just have too many young key pieces and too many question marks. So I think for the U.S., I think they're going to battle Bulgaria till the bitter end, but I just think that Bulgaria is going to probably inch away with this win. Again, I'll be the first to say that I was wrong about this, but until I see Bulgaria being slowed down and the Nikolov brothers slowing down, I gotta go with Bulgaria. All right, but that is that right there in terms of some international volleyball action. The FIVB World Championship will conclude this weekend, so get your popcorn ready and get your subscriptions ready for Volleyball TV or VBTV. Anyway, so now let's move on to some high school girls volleyball. So last weekend was the Durango Fall Classic held in Las Vegas, Nevada. And honestly, it was a very fun tournament. A lot of the best teams were there. And first day of pool play, it was all chalk. All of the top seeds wound up advancing to the championship round, or the qualifying round, or the top 16. So we had Sierra Canyon versus Skyview, Cathedral Catholic versus Assumption, Xavier College Prep versus Mira Costa, Torrey Pines versus Harrisburg, Miramount versus Iolani, Redondo Union versus Archbishop Mitty, Cornerstone Christian versus Marist, and Mater Dei versus Corona del Sol. So first round of 16 match, we had Sierra Canyon sweeping Skyview. No surprise there. Sierra Canyon was the number 1 overall seed of this tournament. You had Assumption taking down Cathedral Catholic in straight sets. This was kind of surprising, but Assumption is from Kentucky. They were the home of Anna DeBeer. This is a darn good Assumption team. And as good as Cathedral Catholic is, they did lose quite a bit from graduation last year. And I just think that Cathedral Catholic wasn't the Cathedral Catholic we saw in the CIF, and that I saw in terms of the CIF state finals. But they normally don't peak at Durango. They normally peak when it comes to like the CIF San Diego section championships and whatnot. Then we had Xavier College Prep dominating Mira Costa. Did not see this coming from a mile away, but Xavier College Prep is the real deal. They hail from Arizona. They are absolutely insane. Then you had Torrey Pines sweeping Harrisburg. This was a dominating win by Torrey Pines. They have such a good team. They've got Finley Kristowiak, Stella Delgadillo. Well, they have the Kristowiak sisters. One's going to Stanford for Beach. The other is going to Penn State for indoor. So not too surprising that Torrey Pines won, but Torrey Pines beating Harrisburg actually snapped Harrisburg's 86-match winning streak. So they had the longest winning streak in the nation, dating back to 2023. I think, 2023. And then the past 2 years, they went undefeated. And it was just, it was 2022. Their win streak dated all the way back to 2022. Last year, they went 31-0. The previous year, they went 31-0. So Harrisburg, hailing from South Dakota, they were pretty darn good, if you ask me. But Torrey Pines just proved to be a whole lot better. Then you had Miramount outlasting outlasting Iolani in 3, 25-19, 18-25, and 25-17. So in the Durango tournament, if you go the distance, matches are best 2 out of 3. And if a third set is needed, that will go up to 25 points. I don't know why, but that's just how it is. But Miramount needed to throw everything and more at Iolani to advance. So good for Miramount. Then you had Redondo Union winning probably the match of the tournament in terms of like the Sweet 16, as they took down Archbishop Mitty 25-22, 23-25, and 29-27. Amazing win right there for the Seahawks, taking down the Monarchs. And then Marist swept Cornerstone Christian. Marist is pretty darn good. You got to remember that their boys volleyball team is pretty good as well, but their girls volleyball team is pretty darn good as well, as they hail from Illinois, Chicago, Illinois. And then Mater Dei swept Corona del Sol of Arizona, 25-22, 25-15. So the quarterfinals had Sierra Canyon taking on Assumption, where Sierra Canyon swept Assumption. No surprise there. Xavier College Prep took down Torrey Pines in 3 sets, 25-17, 11-25, and 25-16. Incredible match right there, as Xavier College Prep remained undefeated. They had not dropped a match going into this tournament, and they were not dropping any matches in that match against Torrey Pines. This was kind of a surprise. Miramount swept Redondo Union 25-21 and 25-19. These two teams faced one another at Redondo Union High, where the Seahawks took down the Sailors in 4 sets. This time, Miramount really turned the tide against Redondo. I was very surprised Miramount pulled off this win pretty convincingly. And then Mater Dei outlasted Marist in 3, 18-25, 25-22, and 25-16. A big win for the Monarchs, as you got to remember they were last year's tournament champion as they advanced to the semifinals. Semifinals were Sierra Canyon and Xavier College Prep. The Trailblazers took down the Gators in 3 sets, 25-19, 20-25, and 25-19. And then this was probably the big shocker. Miramount took down Mater Dei in 3 sets, 21-25, 25-19, and 25-18. So Mater Dei was dethroned as the tournament champion as we got an all-mission league final between Sierra Canyon and Marymount. And in the end, Marymount took down Sierra Canyon 21-25, 25-15, and 25-12. Got to remember that Sierra Canyon is at full strength. They have Kendall Omarui. They've got McKenna McIntosh. They got majority of their players back from last year's team that made the CIF Southern Section Championship. But man, Marymount winning that tournament was pretty darn impressive. And the entire Southern section was on full display as well. You had four teams from the CIF Southern section make the quarterfinals, which is incredible right there. And then you had you had 6 teams from Southern California make it to the quarterfinals, which was incredible right there. So pretty darn good, if you ask me. Wait, actually, no, it was 5 teams from Southern California. Sierra Canyon, Torrey Pines, Marymount, Redondo Union, and Mater Dei. So those were the 5 teams that made it to the quarterfinals from Southern California. So there we go. And then Mater Dei, I guess, played a 1-set third-place match against Xavier College Prep, and they finished 3rd. So you had that right there. So overall, a great tournament and a great showing from Southern California. So I don't want to boast like the other states, but I think Southern California is pretty good at this high school girls volleyball thing. But I guess I should also mention that on the first day of pool play at the Durango tournament, Torrey Pines head coach Brennan Dean, who I actually met at the Mater Dei match last Tuesday, he actually surpassed 400 wins as a head coach. So great job to Brennan Dean. He has been the head coach of Torrey Pines, I think, for 21 years, if not 23 years. This guy is pretty darn good when it comes to coaching Torrey Pines. So a great job to him accomplishing that feat, surpassing 400 wins. He went to Torrey Pines High, and now he's coaching at his alma mater. So a big tip of the cap right there to him. So there you have it right there. That's pretty much what happened in high school girls volleyball last week. Oh, I guess I should also mention that Mater Dei took down Torrey Pines on Tuesday, but then lost to Bishop Gorman on Thursday. So pretty interesting if you ask me. But we shall see. For this week, we have quite a number of notable ranked matches, and these rankings are via Max Preps. So Tuesday, we have Ron Colley of Indiana, number 23, Ron Colley of Indiana, taking on number 15, Hamilton Southeastern of Indiana. So nice little Indiana match right there. So you have that to look forward to if you're from the Indiana area. Then on Wednesday, you have number 17, Marist, taking on number 10, Mother McCauley. That's the Battle of Chicago right there. Those 2 teams are really darn good, and they represent the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois really well in terms of high school girls volleyball. And then for part 2 of the high school girls volleyball matches to watch for, you have on Thursday, number 7 Redondo Union taking on number 16 Miracosta at Miracosta. So this is going to be a fun one just because Miracosta has gotten the better of Redondo Union in terms of best 3 out of 5 matches. But I think the Seahawks team looks pretty darn good just because they returned most of their players from last year's team that made the Division I bracket from last year. So I think the Seahawks team is going to be very, very good. And then I guess something to note for next Monday, I know we're looking that far ahead, but Newport Harbor plays at Los Alamitos. I've talked about this rivalry, and this rivalry is as old as dirt, and this could be for the Sunset League Championship. But both Los Alamitos and Newport Harbor have matches this week, so we'll see. But that's going to be a matchup that I'm going to attend, so in case you're not putting 2 plus 2 together, I'm not going to be live next week. But I will be live next Tuesday. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not going to be live next Monday. But I guess I should also skip the notable class of 2027 girls volleyball players that haven't committed yet. But that'll be for next week. But next Tuesday, Set Point is going to turn 6 years old, which I think is pretty darn awesome if you ask me. So yeah, 6 years around the sun or around the airwaves for Set Point, which I think is going to be incredible right there. So like I mentioned, Set Point's going to be going live on Tuesday instead of Monday next week. And I'm probably going to shoot for like 4 p.m., maybe 3 p.m. Probably going to shoot for 4 p.m. just because I think that's more ideal, but we shall see. But I'm definitely looking forward to Set Point turning 6 years old. Probably going to do like a Q&A, a live Q&A when it comes to this show, when it comes to the 6th-year anniversary of Set Point. I probably am not going to have any guests, but I guess this will probably be the 1,000 followers special on Instagram, as well as the 6th-year anniversary special of Set Point. So a lot to celebrate for next week, and I'm really grateful for it. But until then, that is going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. For everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourself an amazing week. I will enjoy all the volleyball action. I will see you. I have plenty of matches that I'll be PA announcing. Maybe I'll get in a few interviews for tomorrow and whatnot. I am attending a few high school girls volleyball matches this week, but nothing too big and eye-popping. But until then, have a great rest of the week. Enjoy all the volleyball action, and I will see you next Tuesday for the 6th-year anniversary special of Set Point. Have a great week, everybody. Peace!
Yeah.